Moving to day 16, Delta Live Table Constraints. Delta Live Table has recently been renamed to be called declarative pipelines. They are very critical component of Databricks, and Databricks is consistently expanding that particular piece. Okay, so applying constraints is one of the key features of Delta Live Table, and therefore a lot of questions are asked on that. Let us begin. Data quality is at the heart of any production grade pipeline. It is very critical to have a quality data. Otherwise, your AI, which is machine learning or generative AI models, won't reply correctly. Correct? So, data quality is extremely critical. Delta Live Table, now renamed as Lakeflow Declarative Pipeline, lets you embed the delta data quality constraints directly into the transformation. So you can apply the constraints like on violation, what you need to do. You can apply the constraint like this, like okay, you can apply constraint on a particular column, a valid ID, expect something like ID not null, ID cannot be null, and on violation, what action it needs to do. Okay, so let's so for this, before answering question, let me show you one important diagram. This diagram will help you understand how constraints work. This one diagram is sufficient to answer all the related questions on constraints. Okay, so this raw data coming in and you apply some expectation. Let's say you have an ID column and you don't want that ID column to be null, or you don't want it to be empty. And let's take one more column which is name, and first name, maybe first name of a person, and you don't want that first name of a person to be empty. Okay, so you applied those constraints here, right? The moment you applied those expectations or constraints here, if it is passing, the record will be kept and the processing will be continued. If the constraint fails, there are three modes of operation. It can give you a warning and still continue processing. It can drop that particular record and continue processing, and it can fail the stream completely. Okay, so these are different modes of operation in which it works. As I mentioned, warning, okay, expected is there, it's a default behavior, DLT plus expect, right? Invalid records are returned to the target. We want those records to come, we handle it at a different level. Drop, we just want it to be dropped. Okay, expect, on violation, drop row. You just don't want, you want those records to be completely discarded, right? So invalid records are dropped before data is returned to the target table, so your data doesn't reach the target table, and the count of dropped record is logged log alongside the data set metrics. The most important feature of this is like everything is logged. Okay, so if it is dropping the row, it is also logging the metrics as well. And then fail, expect, on violation, fail update. So it it tries to put that data but it fails to put that data, right? In that case, on violation, fail update, stop everything, right? So invalid records are prevent the update from succeeding. Manual intervention is required before reprocessing. This expectation causes a failure of a single flow and does not cause the other flows in your pipeline to fail. So that particular failure happens and that failure is recorded in the metrics. Everything is recorded in the metrics, as I mentioned, right? So let us understand each of the questions. So the first question might be around, let's say a data engineer has defined the following constraint. So the constraint is valid ID, expect ID not null. Which option ensures the record violating these constraints are dropped and still reported in metrics? The records which are violating the constraints are completely dropped, right? And still reported in the metrics is on violation, drop row. Drop word is keyword is very important. Okay, other in all other cases it is fail update, delete row. No, it drop rows. You can go and check the documentation. It is the word drop is being mentioned here. So delete and drop might confuse you, but drop is the right answer. Okay, second question is, if no on violation clause is specified, this is very important. If no on violation clause is specified, what happened to the record violating the constraint? The answer is they are kept in the target table but logged in as an invalid matrix. Okay. So by default, if you apply the constraints, they are not non-fatal. They are non-fatal, means invalid records are kept in the dataset, but violations are tracked in the event log. Okay. As I mentioned, everything is logged. This lets you monitor the data quality without immediately discarding the failing job. They are kept in the target table, so it will allow the data to flow but logged in as an invalid matrix. Okay, so by default, since it is non-fatal, it will allow the data to flow into the target table. The third question is, a data engineer want invalid rows to still be included in the target table while being tracked in the matrix without discarding them. Which clause should they use? Okay, so this is a kind of a default behavior where even invalid records, right, like invalid records, even if it fails, it is going to warn means it is going to put the result and log it into the matrix, but it will continue the processing. Correct, it will keep the record and continue the processing. This is a flow we are talking about. Okay, so the answer to this is no on violation clause is needed. There is no explicit add row clause. This is a default behavior already does this. Keep invalid rows in the output file while flagging them in the matrix. Many candidates get tripped up thinking that there is a special add row keyword, but it doesn't exist. You can check, there is no add row keyword, right? It's a warn, as I mentioned, it's a warn and keep the record. Then it has a drop which drops the record, and it has fail where the pipeline completely fails. So the key takeaways are: constraints gives the data quality feature to DLT. It's amazing feature. We should use it as much as possible. It gives an amazing metrics on top of the table. Default behavior keeps invalid record but logs violation. Drop row removes invalid data silently but still log the metric. And fail update halts the pipeline. Use this for stricter regulatory critical cases. Choose the right enforcement level depending on the business risk. Okay, so DLT, declarative pipeline, a critical component of Databricks, and constraint is one of the important features. So a lot of questions are asked around it. So these are just sample questions which I could think of. uh, know the theory well so that you could very easily answer. One of the tricky question which I mentioned you is the default behavior, where no violation clause is needed, that records are automatically kept and metrics are recorded. Correct, so this is all about um, delta live table and table constraint questions. Okay, thank you guys, thanks for watching. Please do subscribe. I am soon going to start one complete data engineering series where we'll learn basics of Python, basics of SQL, basics of Spark, and then on top of that we'll also try to do some capstone project and some critical concepts. Okay, and all these things we'll do on the free Databricks version so that learning is simpler. Thank you, thanks guys, thanks.